Hello and welcome back to another episode of Killers and Crime. My name's Tracy Daly and I'm with...
Ellen Daly.
Ellen Daly, I'm awake! And this one's been picked by Ellen and she did a lot of work on
mistake.
this. I don't think it was a mistake. I know there was a lot of material.
It's very famous. I didn't actually know it was very famous until I looked into it and then found that they've done, in the UK, TV documentaries and series, I believe.
So what you thought was going to be a little bit of work
going to be something all new or different. It was just something that I didn't know had happened.
What you've got to remember is, well, I'll use Evil Puddy as a great example because they're brilliant at what they do, but I'll use them as an example. There's loads of their stuff I've never heard of. And yet I know in certain areas that they've spoken about, they've said, oh, this is really, really famous here.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's depending on who's listening and who's heard of it. Because even though I'm saying it's really famous, I hadn't heard of it until I looked into it.
Yeah, and I had no clue. I had no clue, but I went to work and I mentioned it, and a couple of people were like, I remember this guy.
I was too young to remember.
Yeah, very funny.
It was before I was born.
Not so much for me, I'm afraid. Do we need to give a trigger warning out?
Well, there you go, trigger warning, it's done.
There you go, yeah. The
trigger is in the title of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason that came about was I've just been in one of the groups, which is where I do a lot of the advertising, and I'm with several sort of mental health groups or listening ear groups or support after murder, manslaughter, trauma, domestic violence, you name it. And I hope that how I phrase things and how I come across somewhere along the line, not that somebody's necessarily able to relate to, but if they do relate to it, that it's able to help somebody. That's the number one goal. And I've had hundreds of messages, thankfully, from people saying, hey, this is brilliant. What you do is really good. It's inspiring, or whatever the polite context may be. And that's beneficial. And I'm hoping that that's a genuine thing and that it is. However, I was just in a group for mental health, and I won't explain the group's title. I don't think that's overly fair.
Yeah, doesn't need to be.
No, but I introduced myself. Hi, my name's Tracy Daly. My father killed my mother in 1993. I was 10. And that's my default go-to. That has a little bit of shock factor, but it also explains the situation. And hopefully with that sort of confidence, people look at that and we go, oh my God, yeah, this has happened to me too. And we'll have a chat about it. But in this instance, the admin replied, could you please remove your first 2 lines on your post and the last 2 lines? Both of which were simply related to the case. There was no other advertising involved. There was nothing offensive. I wasn't saying she was brutally stabbed to death in her sleep or anything.
It wasn't even in the fact that it was related to the case. You've gone into a mental health group and it was related to what you'd previously had mental health problems on.
Oh yeah,
sure. You joined a mental health group and announced the reason as to why you joined it. To a certain degree.
Yes, and I could have easily gone in there and said, hey, my father has just killed my mother. It's been a few weeks, or I'm having flashbacks or panic attacks or depression or a breakdown, or I'm self-harming or whatever, and I might have actually needed some sort of support. And the first thing this person would have done would have been said, oh, this could trigger somebody else in the group. I've got 2,500 members. Can you please not post that? And I honestly think that is fucking ridiculous.
It's hard. I do understand and appreciate trigger warnings.
100%.
But at the same time, I do also believe you've gone into a mental health group. For the majority of people that are in it, have gone in there for help and advice and assistance, and to find those like-minded that have had similar situations.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, there was a few comments or likes on that post. Maybe for those people, it triggered them that there was somebody else around like them.
Hey, I had several people friend request literally shortly after, so I've got no doubts about that, and that's a good thing. I know that there's not many posts, comments, or interactions on the Facebook thing on the face of it, but I also know in the background it's turning all the time. And there's a reason for that.
So,
That's a good thing.
There's pros and cons to all groups.
Oh, but in this instance, it's a bit of a joke. And if you pick up 50 Shades of Grey, and it tells you on the back what it's about.
I never read it.
It was sort of filmed.
I have watched it.
Don't be expecting
it wasn't that good.
something. No, it wasn't. But don't be expecting something extraordinarily tame. And it's likewise. You're on a podcast about killers and crime.
Your trigger is in the title.
Yeah, don't expect to be coming on and me going, oh, flying unicorns, amazing rainbows, and everybody loves one another. That's not what it's about, unfortunately.
That's the thing. People join the mental health group. It's not because their mental health is great. It's because they've had... No, sorry.
Cheers, babe. Thanks for that.
Sorry. It is what it is, whether that is you, me, or anyone else.
Yeah.
They've joined that because at some point in their life they've needed help or they need help and assistance now. Yeah. They've not gone, this is the great mental health group. We're perfectly on track. We've had the positive upbringing, the perfect life.
I remember my uncle, Uncle Clive, explaining his opinions on social workers. He said there's two types of social workers. Those who think they were going to help the world and had no idea what they were doing, and those who've been there and had it really rough, want to help everybody and have no idea what they're doing.
That's the thing with life. There's, in so many walks of life, that is exactly what you get.
Oh, and not to poo-poo social workers. I've had several social workers, and I've got to be honest, two of them were absolutely incredible. So, not to poo-poo social workers in the slightest. The work you do is amazing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to rant. I just wanted to moan. I go in there to try and listen and be a positive influence, and somebody goes, "Can you please change how you speak?" Yeah, fuck you, no.
Into positive mental health now.
I am positive mental health. Okay, I'm positive you have a case for us.
Maybe. Well, I have a case.
Okay.
If I can read my own writing, I'm old school with a pen and paper. I don't have a computer in front of me right now.
I hand-wrote Tracy's story. You're preaching to the choir.
So I'm going to attempt to read my writing back. We have stated it is a Whitehouse farm murders. Obviously, there is lots of stuff out there. You can go and look on Wiki, which has been a great help. We'll give a little bit of a background to it first of all before we...
You have books and books of information. I'm going to sit here. I've got coffee. I've got a couple of beers lined up. Life is good. Off you go.
So it took place near the village of, I think it's Tolleshunt, you pronounce it.
Tolleshunt.
Darcy, Essex in England, during the night of the 6th and the 7th of August, 1985.
I am going to say it sounds a little bit like Cockney rhyming slang, and I'm definitely not going to use that word.
Where am I?
Tolleshunt. And considering I'm a northerner.
It's not Cockney, I'm afraid.
No.
But
it does sound like something my manager would come out with a word. Does it begin with C? It does begin with C.
Trigger warning. Sorry. Okay, anyway.
Trigger warning. We found a new word to describe my father.
Anyways.
Right, so it took place near the village of Tolleshunt, Darcy, Essex, England, during the night of the 6th and 7th of August, 1985, 3 years after I was born.
Well done, you can read my writing. That was before I was born. Ralph Neville Bamber, who is known as Neville, was born on the 8th of June, 1924. He was a farmer and a former RAF pilot and a magistrate at the local Witham Magistrates Court. His wife is June Bamber, née Speakman, and she was born on the 3rd of June 1924, and she was brought up at Vulty Manor Farm.
Vulty Manor?
Vulty, I think it is. I'm not sure. Begins with a V.
Yes,
Vulty.
It does look like Vulty, but if you're familiar with Faulty Towers, you'll understand the ridiculous mindset I am in tonight for whatever reason. I know what it is. Something pissed me off, and my mindset is just make something funny.
Yeah, I know.
I've got to stop that. Right, I'm going to stop that. This is a serious case about people dying, and I'm being a dick. Go on.
Okay, so this back to June.
Yeah.
She was brought up on Vulty Manor Farm. She went to a grammar school in Colchester and then attended a secretarial college. She went on to work in offices locally, but then joined up to help during the war. So she joined the female Army and Navy Yeomanry and was posted to Calcutta.
Calcutta, cool.
After the war, June returned to being a secretary and she met Neville Bamber.
Okay.
And they fell in love. They got married in 1949, and their first home was a cottage in Walsh Lane, I think it is, a quarter of the mile.
Wash Lane?
No, I think it's Walsh Lane. I think, if I remember rightly, it is Walsh Lane.
Looks like you crossed the nail out.
No, I think I put the L in. We'll debate it after.
Wash Lane.
Walsh Lane, a quarter of a mile from Walty Manor Farm, where June grew up, so not far from her home.
No. Sounds very much like sort of my mother with her mother. They
a
had
lot
to
of
be
families
close
kind of go
proximity.
close, don't they?
Seems like that was the sort of relationship.
June took the role of the housewife and took part in community activities with the church and the Women's Institute, apparently including Meals on Wheels, I believe.
Meals on Wheels was a big thing around that time, wasn't it? It had just come out. It's literally, I don't know. They've got to have that in America.
I don't know. Right? Meals on Wheels.
I say America. This goes out to other countries, but they've got Meals on Wheels. It was delivery for elderly people. It was meals brought to your door.
There's still, I believe there's still places that kind of do it locally in their little communities. I had a great uncle who's passed now, and he was, getting on really old. He wasn't able to get in and out of the house, and they had kind of a Meals on Wheels on like I'll call it an estate, like a sort of an amount of houses and whatever else around. And there was two ladies that kind of grouped together and said, right, we're going to be your Meals on Wheels. And they provide meals and deliver it to those who can't cook for themselves and get out and do things.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
So it's great.
Was a good thing.
So they were both keen tennis players. June was also a keen gardener and enjoyed arranging the flowers at the local church, where she was appointed church warden later in life. Okay. So after 2 or 3 years at their first home, they took on the tenancy of the Whitehouse farm that belonged to June's father.
Okay. I'd love to own a farm, if for no other reason than to be like, I have
don't
land.
think I would be capable of owning a farm that contained animals.
I wouldn't be capable of owning a farm that contained animals, but I'm not capable
of eating the animals.
Well, yeah, you're gross.
Yeah, but you're not a vegetarian.
No, I'm not a vegetarian.
You eat meat.
I don't eat lamb.
I eat lamb. I eat lamb.
I don't eat duck. I don't eat lamb. I don't eat alligator. I don't eat crocodile.
I eat lamb.
I don't eat cats.
I'm not going to eat any of that, but I do eat lamb.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
June and Neville were unable to have biological children, so the couple decided to adopt. They did this via their church adoption process, and they adopted Sheila and Jeremy as babies. The children were not biologically related to each other. Okay, so first we'll go into Sheila. So she was the first adopted daughter.
I just want to confirm, because yes. I know you explained that really, really well.
Yes.
But I also know that when I'm trying to follow...
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Hold on, then let me say it. When I'm trying to follow families, that I find it difficult. So I just want to reconfirm for people listening, the people like me that need big pictures and writing and stuff. These people have adopted 2 children from 2 different families.
2 different families.
Right, because I know a bit about this story as well. So, excuse me. 2 different families.
Sheila and Jeremy are the 2 adopted children.
Yeah.
They adopted Sheila, and then I think it's about 2 or 3 years later, they adopted Jeremy. Jeremy and Sheila are completely unrelated. They're not biologically related.
Because I also know that I was listening to a episode by Cola City Crime about somebody who was adopted. I can't remember the title off the top of my head, but I was listening to that today, and that was amazing. They did really, really well. But anyway, back to your story.
So first we'll go on Sheila. So her name was Sheila Caffell. She was born on the 18th of July in 1957. And she was born to an 18-year-old daughter of the Archbishop of Canterbury's senior chaplain, Eric J.
Which I love how you've put in brackets there, because we originally read it as she was the 18-year-old
Archbishop of Canterbury. And I was like, it isn't possible. And then I did actually have to look into it.
His senior chaplain.
But this is where Google comes into play for good and bad reasons. So be careful what you find and try and make it as accurate as possible.
We're going to find out this is totally unrelated to this.
If anybody wants to chip in that it's not related and you find your own evidence, let us know. She was given the name Phyllis at birth, but the Archbishop apparently forced the teenage daughter of Eric J., his senior chaplain, to give her child away. So at 2 weeks old, baby Phyllis was placed into an adoption agency. And then 3 months later, Neville and June Bamber adopted her and renamed her Sheila Jean Bamber. And a few years later, Neville and Jean decided